Welcome to another episode. I'm so excited. I have Ron Ben Joseph here again with me today to talk about more of our awakening process. Waking up, being awake, all of these things that you might hear out in the woo-woo world. We're going to be talking about the real raw version of that right here.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we're gonna get raw. We're gonna get gritty today.
Yeah,
Shit's gonna get real, yo.
yeah.
Jen, who am I? did you ever did you ever do you remember that in Zoolander? Did you ever see the movie Zoolander with
I
Ben
did.
Stiller? And
Yes.
he's looking at the water and he's like, "Who am I?" And it's like I remember being a kid, like being a teenager, and asking that esoteric question of the universe, not knowing that there's a universe, and being like, I wish someone would tell me, but like in reality, we don't like. The universe tells us all the time who we are, but we don't want to listen. So like, can you break down for me? I'm not a really science guy. My daughter is becoming very sciencey, but like, can you break down to me in almost like a scientific, like detailed way? How does one articulate who they are? I don't. It's such a big idea.
Oh gosh, that's a really good one. Who are we? Who am I? Well, whoa, sorry. Who am I? Who are you? Well, I mean, this is something that I've really come to understand in the last few years, but most particularly this year. And what really landed for me is that I am source energy in a body. I am God. I am the universe. Some people don't like to hear this because they think maybe like if you're religious, perhaps that feels like not a possibility or maybe egoic. But I really and truly, in all of my body, in all of my belief system, I believe that I am source energy in a body. I believe that you are source energy in a body. I believe that George Bush is source energy in a body. I believe that my neighbor is source energy in a body. And when I really and truly look at that, my sister-in-law is source energy in a body. My brother, again and again, when I look at it, first of all, it gives me great compassion for everyone who's on their own journey, who's on their own path. When I think about my child being source energy in a body, it makes me love myself so much, because how could I not love him? I love him so deeply that I cannot help but to love myself more. When I see my husband and he's feeling annoying to me, and I remember that he is source energy in a body, I have deep compassion for him. When I have an issue with someone, a neighbor or a family member or a friend, and I remember that they are source energy in a body, I have deep compassion for their path and for where they are on their path. And I recognize that it's none of my business where they are on their path. Right. I have a very beautiful family. And sometimes, just like all families, we don't get along. We have conflict. We have, issues that arise. But when I remember that they are here on earth as source in a body, I have a deeper compassion for them. And it really helps me to step back. And this is something we can talk about in many different episodes. But when you step off of the drama triangle, when you step off of, going round and round and round as the bully, the victim, and the rescuer, you can see that people are just on their own path. And it allows you to recognize that they're going to wake up exactly on time for them. Exactly on time for them. And it allows you to really take a step back to let go of trying to control everything. Anybody a control freak in the house? Yeah, me, recovering control addict, right? I wanted to control all of the relationships that I had around me. And when I recognized that I was source energy in a body and that everyone else is too, it allowed me to step off of that drama triangle and to really look at everyone as their own being on their own path, and that it doesn't have anything to do with me.
Totally. And like source energy, can we go deeper into that idea? Because for me, I interpret it as source energy. So this body is given, it's like infused with and energy, and we don't judge that energy, right? But is there also this component where, like you said, it's like, I think you said, like, I'm also interpreting source energy as a reflection. My interpretation of their behavior is a reflection of myself.
Frequently, that's mirrors. Yes, mirrors and triggers, right? When we're triggered by someone or we see ourselves in someone, is that what you mean? Like when you,
Yeah,
mhm.
but it's what I'm saying is that it's my own interpretation because they are just energy. Like source
Correct.
energy is the idea that it's just neutral, like there's no interpretation to it, there's no meaning to it.
So source energy. So source energy would be like its own, it's its own entity. It's its own it, source energy is its own consciousness, right? And so if you think about like this is really esoteric. If you really dive deep into I am a drop in the ocean, right? I'm just a drop in the ocean. Well, I am the ocean. I am the whole ocean, says Rumi. And when I think about myself as part of the oneness, that's the universal law of oneness, source energy is where we all came from. It is the ultimate creator. It is the ultimate universal consciousness. It is its own consciousness. So when I think of myself being that consciousness, I am source, and I see you the same way. We are just mirrors of each other. We're all just mirroring each other. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, well, I mean it as a question because then doesn't that where does individuality and uniqueness come in then? When we because when we ask who am I, right?
Mhm.
And when we talk about numerology, I'm a 4, I'm a 3, I'm right?
Right,
Like
right.
how does that piece play into it if we are just source energy? Like this is really challenging stuff, right? Because I'm like,
Love
wait,
it.
am I not the most special person on earth? What?
Oh, yeah, we're not special. Mm-mm. No, we're not. We're not special. I'm not special. You're not special. No one is special. And it actually, specialness just is ego, right? It's the mind. And so let me go back to even though we're one, so universal law of oneness says, even though we are one, it doesn't mean that we are the same. So universal law of oneness doesn't equal that we are all the same. There is individuality, there is uniqueness. And we all are here on the planet in our individual bodies, right? Coded through numerology. And but yet we all hold this same piece within us. That's kind of how I see it. So we all hold this part of source within our being, within our bodies, but really, and then we also have unique characteristics like we have our numbers, we have our numerologies, we have our personalities, and that really, but that's not source, right? The part of you that is source energy is the part of you that uh, is part of that consciousness out there, if you will. And then you have this physical body, but there is a part of that here. There is a piece of source energy within all of us. This is a good big conversation.
Well, this is helpful. So prior to recording, we talked about George W. Bush,
Uh-huh.
um, and so I always preface and say I'm Israeli, and one of my best friends is a Palestinian comedian. She's amazing. Her name is Mona Abarmashan. So check her out. She's funny as hell. I am a registered Democrat, and I have clients that I adore, that I love, and we have amazing conversations that are hardcore Republicans.
Yes.
Um, and I love them, and they help me feel better about life. George W. Bush is a great example. In 2000 to 2008, I was not a fan at the time. One of my best friends at the time, my buddy Mark, loved George W. And we'd have never challenging, never arguments, but I was like, help me out, buddy. I'm not seeing this. And he would explain to me, like, okay. Subsequently, in the past 12, 13 years, I think he's such a nice guy. We talk about all the time. We're like, man, what George W was great. Like, did we, like he's become so like chivalrous, right? He's become so graceful and like such a good person. It seems, and I'm sure he was a good person then too. But like, but you know, so for me at the time, the way I articulated who he is, I don't know how he articulated who he is. I'm sure he was fine with it, but like my articulation of who this man is very different than it is now. It's completely changed. So how do we then interpret what other people are? Right? Like even maybe that's an easier way for me to wrap my head around this, which is that if I can interpret, oh, I didn't like that person, but now I really like that person. Um, how did that shift happen? How do you shift? Can you shift that about yourself? Right? Like, are you who you are all the time, or can that change too? Are we who Am I who I was when I was 4 versus 40? I'm gonna be 41 soon. Uh, I'm asking a lot of questions at once, but does that make sense? Like, how do
Yeah.
we like hang our hat on something? How do we wrap our minds around this idea of who someone else is?
Well, I love that. I think that is the process of awakening, right? It's the process of understanding who you really are and letting go of ego and becoming a self-actualized human. Right. So when you become a self-actualized human, you let go of all of the illusion and all of the conditioning. So the conditioning is the social programming that we learn as we grow, right? So when you're an infant, you are totally connected to source. You just arrived, you just got here. And when you watch a little kid or a baby, you recognize their connection. They are source. They are pure. They're innocent. They haven't learned anything yet, right? They don't have. They're just like this like being, and they do have their core personality. Like every baby is different, but they are still so connected, right? They're so connected to source. And I think like up until about 5, they are very connected to source energy. They have not forgotten yet who they really are. But then we go through this process, and I don't really know why. I mean, like that's the question of the ages, right? Like why do we go through this process of forgetting how who we are and how connected we are to source energy? Why
Okay,
do we go through that? Go,
I
yeah.
I catch it because you brought up 5. So my daughter is 5 years old, and this past year with Corona, we we like started spending. So my sister, I've always been very close to my sister, and my niece is 13, my daughter's 5, and we decided I think last year in June we were like, okay, let's bubble. Like we felt like we were safe. We're all being safe. Like let's bubble. And so the only real source for the majority of the summer, for the majority of the fall, the only source of another young like human was my niece. My niece is 13, and my niece is like such a sassy teenager. And I see my daughter. I've seen my daughter in the past year almost start becoming a teenager herself because that was her only source. So it was almost like a survival technique. Like she almost like to fit in, she started shedding, like she saw that she'd be more successful with this other child, this other kid, if she embodied more of her practices.
Yes.
Right? So it's like fitting in.
Yes, absolutely. So you just described conditioning, right? And conditioning doesn't have to be negative. Like any feedback can be positive or negative. There's polarity in all things that we live on planet Earth, right? So when we have conditioning though, your kid starts to act more like that person because she is conditioned to want to be like we seek sameness, right? We see, I do this because this is what they do. This is what the kids do. We seek sameness. We seek, that's the mirror concept. So we seek something that feels similar to us. And when your daughter is around the 13-year-old, she wants to be like her. She thinks she's cool. It like feels good to sound like her, talk like her, or mimic her, right? We mimic what we want to be like. And you'll see that with the kids at school. You'll see that with kids who live in any home. So we are conditioned by our parents to behave a certain way. We are conditioned by society, by our community to behave in a certain way. You were conditioned to behave in a specific way based on your family. I was conditioned to behave in a specific way based on my family. And I believe that there is some positive to that and there's some negative to that, right? Because the positive side is that we are maybe you hopefully you live in a loving home and all of those things, but maybe you don't. And maybe your parents are teaching you good values and maybe they're not, who knows? But really in reality, the awakening process and the process that I take people through is to release all of the conditioning and to release the illusion that we are experiencing in this third dimensional plane, right? And the illusion is that we are separate. The illusion is that we are separate from our source. That is the great illusion. And I believe that the conditioning is just the social programming. The conditioning is just one aspect of it. But it's like the conditioning of, well, children are seen and not heard, so you should stay small. This is a huge thing for entrepreneurs. Anyone who comes to talk to me who has a business online is thinking about conditioning, because they have been taught to be seen but to not be heard. And so it's really hard, particularly for women entrepreneurs, to speak their truth, to actually communicate in a clear, concise way, because they were taught to hide in the corner and to not be seen. My dad, my whole life, God bless my dad, he was like on the phone on business calls and everyone was like, be quiet, Dad's on the phone. Well, no, no, I don't accept that. So that is something that I have had to work through deeply in my own being. I was terrified to speak my truth. I was terrified to come on video. I was terrified to be heard, because what if somebody didn't like it? What if I was too loud? What if I said something that people didn't like? Oh my God, then I would have to like go hide in the corner again. Like,
Well, that's the
that is,
big one. Saying something that people don't like is the big one right now. But I love it that I love what you're saying is that it's not who you are; it's conditioning. So it's like, we were talking before recording that I have a client who we see the current mask situation very differently. I'm for the mask; she's anti. And I really like this client. We have great conversations. And so I was like, okay, wait. I'm like, can I push back? And she's like, totally. Let's do it. Let's go there. And what we came to was, we were laughing because we're both coaches. So we're like, okay, like what we came to was that we are both, that the argument is, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. Right?
right.
And when we say I'm right, right, is that you're right. It's like we are digging our heels into committing to the conditioning that was given to us. So that's what I like, whether someone's like, what, whether is like, oh, I don't like this political belief or that political belief. It doesn't, those are just how you grew up. I grew up liberal. My sister and I were talking about this, that like we grew up liberal. So of course that's what's in our head, right? But maybe that's not right. Like maybe, right? Maybe something else is right. Like maybe those who are conservative are right or they're wrong. Or it doesn't, who cares? It doesn't matter, right?
And
It's,
what if we're just all one?
what if we're all one? What if we're all trying to do the same thing? And it's conditioned, right? So I love it that the conditioning really seems to be one of the biggest thing that holds us from knowing ourselves and loving ourselves, because we're committed to being right. If we're conditioned, we are committing that conditioning is correct, right?
Yes, I love that so much. Oh my God. One of my greatest understandings has been that there is no right or wrong. And that's a really hard thing for people because they are very committed to being right or wrong. And so I always ask my clients, and I ask my kid this, and I ask myself this every day. Am I committed to being right, or am I committed to peace? And really, in reality, I am committed to peace. I am not committed to being right. It does not matter to me if I'm right or wrong. It's irrelevant. Really, I am committed to being peaceful. I'm committed to peace. I'm committed to the frequency of peace, because peace holds its own frequency. And so when I am committed to peace, I live in a peaceful state. When I am committed to not being right or wrong, and for me, that just has become an irrelevant piece, right? I am not committed to being right or wrong. Mind blown, maybe I'm not right, and maybe you're not wrong, and maybe you're not right, and maybe I'm not wrong. What if there are many truths? What if there are many truths? So I have become committed to peace. I am committed to peace. I am not committed to being right or wrong.
I had a client that said, peace is not, it's not the inaction, or it's not nothing going on. It's not like zero things happening. It's calm when there's a storm around you, right? So that's different than passive aggressive or resolution or like a peacemaker, right? Like in Enneagram 9, like they fall into like, oh, you know what? I'm going to run from conflict, right?
Right. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you don't have conflict, right? Being, I say the word right all the time. Sorry. I'm really seeing that. I think that it's not that you don't have conflict still. It's not that you don't have an opinion. It's just, it's really about what are you devoted to? What are you committed to? yeah, it's not about like not rocking the boat either. I think that that was what I really wanted to come through
That's
with.
yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I love this. Like we're like unearthing. We're getting into this is gritty.
It's
Um what about what do you think about when people are like man, only when you go through the shit, like only when you go through the storm do you really see who you are on the inside. I've lost a lot over the years. And 2015 was just like 2015, 2016, 2017. You know, everything in my life fell apart, and I did kind of like a phoenix rise from the ashes. Um, uh, and I wear it like a badge of honor, and I think there's so much ego in that, and I think there's so much like conditioning in that like only because in the movies like the underdog has to lose everything only to like really rise. But do you think there is truth to that shedding of layers, um, really, like if we look at it neutrally without right or wrong, without the ego being like, oh, I'm stronger for it. If you go, wait, no, shedding all the falsehoods brings out the truth, and then that truth emerges. Do you believe in that?
Yeah, I mean that's like the spiritual onion, right? It's like the in Reiki we unearth everything. I love that you said that. So you really you start to stir the pot, you stir everything up, you perturb the system, right? And that might look like the dark night of the soul that people have. It might look like something terrific and terrible that you've had to go through. But it also could just look like, I mean, you don't have to go through something terrible to wake up. I think many people do, but I don't think that that is the crux of it. But as we unearth and as we unlayer and bring all of the stuff up to the surface to release, that really to me is what the letting go of all of the conditioning looks like. It's like I have a client right now who's not going through something terrible, but she is unearthing all of the things, and it's bringing up all the stuff from her childhood, and it's bringing up all of the things that that she was good at or not good at, and all the things that she believes about herself. And actually she voxered me this morning and was like, nobody got on my live and nobody did, no one's paying attention to me, and do I even belong? And I said to her, yes, of course you belong, because the belonging conversation is so important. We are not separate, right? That's the separation conversation. But really, I really asked her to look at, what external validation is she looking for? What external validation are you looking for that makes you feel like like when you seek external validation, it's like you aren't seeing that love on the inside. I don't know if I've totally gone off track here now, but boy,
Oh
that just came through
no,
so
mind
strongly.
blown. No, you didn't go off track at all. You know what? It's making me think that excuse me. The question of who I am, the implicit challenge in that question is the question, the who, right? Because I am is the most dominant statement, but it's when we go into the who, it's a fearful question versus like, you know what I'm curious about? How am I going to react to this? Based on my conditioning, based on my need to be right or wrong, right?
Yeah,
Whereas
right.
that seems to probably be more the organic question versus who I am is you're looking to an exterior. Who being like it's something outside of me,
Right. And really asking someone else to tell you who you are, right?
right? Like in
Society
Zoolander,
tells us who we are all of the time, but
right?
who are you really? And it just comes back to being source.
Yeah, so full circle. So that makes a lot of sense. So then again, when we look at numerology, then numerology is not telling you who you are. It's
No.
just it's like unearthing the gifts that you were brought that source gave you when you were brought into this earth.
Yes, yes, yes,
And how does
yes.
that play into purpose then?
Ooh, well, I mean, that's a really good question. And I don't know that we know our purpose until we've left the building. So you'll find out your purpose fully when you have exited. But numerology will give you a lot of really cool, interesting ideas about why you're here and how you walk through the on the planet. So me understanding that I am here to lead, my understanding that I'm here to build something tangible. I am here to build a movement. I'm here to create a self-love revolution, right? I'm here to build something. And I know that because of my numerology. I know that I'm here to seek freedom. I know that I'm here to seek adventure. based in my numerology, based in my numbers. I also know that based in my numerology, that I would make a great cult leader because I have a little isolated 9 in my chart. And it just makes me have a little bit of paranoia, and it helps me, it isolates me. So I, in a sabotaging moment, will avoid and isolate and do all of these things. But I'm also this great leader, right? So I know when I am doing this thing that I do, I isolate myself, that I need to reach out. I need to reach out to a coach. I need to reach out to a mentor. I need to reach out to some friends. I need to reach out to someone who is positive, who's going to help lift me up and not like help me go back down into the rabbit hole of isolation. But for a long time, I isolated myself and I didn't really know why I was doing it. And I would think people were mad at me and all of the things. But really, when I learned my blueprint, when I learned my numerology, I learned that I have this tendency to isolate myself. And now I can go, I'm doing that thing that I do. And I reach out for support. And you know what? I rarely isolate myself anymore. I don't do it anymore because I know that it's something that I have been coded to do. It's something I came here to purposefully work on, right? I also understand that I am here to be a spiritual being, that I'm here to understand the frequency of love. That's all in my numerology. I'm right now in a whole season, a whole big 9-year season of love. And I feel it so deeply. I am embodying love more than I ever have in my whole life right now in the past few years. And that is all in my numerology. So that is part of my purpose. It's part of why I'm here. And understanding that just gives me the possibility, it gives me the potential for where I want to go and how I want to walk. And it's everything for me. It has changed everything in my life.
Jen, that is gorgeous. That is, and it gives us, as listeners, like it gives us a place to go. Like if we want clarity around who we are and what our purpose is and what to do and what to put out in the universe and what our natural aptitude is for, or how we can best serve. Excuse me, I keep schmutzing here. That's a great avenue. So, guys, everyone, call Jen, email Jen, start the party.
Everybody needs a friend.
Your future self will thank you.
Oh, I love that. Yes, I think about my future self frequently.
She's a happy camper.
She is. She is a very happy camper. Absolutely. Because I have aligned with myself. And so when in my alignment with myself, I understand my future self. My future self talks to me all of the time.
Yeah. That is so cool. Oh my goodness. All right, take us home, Jen. This is great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all so much for being here for another amazing episode. Thank you, Ron, for being here with me today and co-creating this conversation with me. I love it so much. Join us again. We're here, and I can't wait for our next conversation. So thanks so much for listening.